Well, good morning, everybody, or good day, or however I should greet you. It's me again, Pastor Howie, coming to you from our wonderful taping studios here at the Hawthorne Gospel Church. And I'm being helped by my director-producer, Jonathan Minima. He's the one behind the scenes here who's making this all happen. So thanks for letting me into your home again or your apartment. And I'd like to talk to you today, I'd like us to talk together about anxiety. It's probably a pretty fitting term. You've probably been hearing it in a lot of different places these days. We live in anxious times, don't we? So this is coming to you from the HGC Pastoral Counseling Department, and I have a definition that I'd like to share with you about anxiety. It's a feeling of worry, unease, or nervousness, usually regarding an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. So I have a question for you today. I want you to raise your hands where you're self-isolating. How many of you are feeling anxious today? Come on now, raise your hands. How many of you are really feeling anxious? It's okay to feel anxious. In fact, I was feeling anxious coming up here to do this taping with Jonathan this morning. So anxiety is a part of our life. I didn't know what the outcome of this tape would be. You'll be the judge of that when you listen to it. But anxiety is all around us, isn't it? And it's okay to feel anxious. But I want to give us some antidotes. I want to give us a little immunization, if you will, for anxiety. And it's found in James, the book of James, chapter 1. I want to read a few verses to you. It's James 1, verse 5. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking, but when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea or tossed about by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do. So here's some things we need to think about coming out of that passage, okay? The first one is this. You need to say this with me this morning, today. I am perfectly imperfect. Can you say that? I am perfectly imperfect. Isn't that what James says? He says if you need wisdom. Who of us doesn't need wisdom? Because we're imperfect. But we're perfectly imperfect. We're created in God's image. We just have this problem called sin. So because we're perfectly imperfect, look at what this text says. It says that we should ask. Are you willing to ask? Or are you afraid to ask? You have to ask. You have to make a choice here, and you have to do the asking. And when you ask, who are you asking? You're asking, it says, a generous God. And he's going to give it to you. He's going to answer your request. So don't be a people pleaser. If we're trying to please somebody other than God, the text is telling us, then we're going to be unstable in all our ways. There's going to be instability in our lives. Do you feel that today? I sense that today. I sense that people are very unstable today because we have one foot in the world, one foot in God's kingdom, and we're not really focusing on him. We're afraid to ask him for this wisdom, this discernment, this understanding that we need to kind of understand what's going on in our world today. Another thing you need to do, and I think it comes from this passage too, the Apostle Paul said it, bad company corrupts good morals. Don't be hanging around in bad places and getting bad information. Make sure that you're not just watching the news. Actually, don't watch the news. Make sure you're in the Word. Make sure you're interacting, connecting with other believers who can help you. Find people who are positive. Find people who have a good sense of humor, and they will be very therapeutic to you. So here's our talking points for today. Number 1, remember that you're perfectly imperfect, okay? And that's okay. But because we're perfectly imperfect, we have to ask. And so we need to ask. Don't be afraid to ask God. And when we do ask him, he's a generous God. He's going to answer our prayers. Be a believer today. Be a believer in God. Keep your focus on him. The battle is his, it's not ours. So keep your focus there. Don't be a doubter, be a believer. Watch out for those winds and waves today because they're out there and they're making us unstable. Take your eyes off the winds, take your eyes off the waves, and let's put our focus where it belongs, on Jesus Christ.